Good morning. I wanted to whip out a knife today to show everybody. This is my current favorite user fixed blade, I think, at the moment. It's the Bark River Bravo 1.25 LT CPM 3V. Now, I've used this to process wood for one bonfire just here at the house. Me and the kiddo. He's 9 years old. He has his own little knives and he loves to put things in the fire. He's going to burn my house down, I swear. He will poke that stick in, fling them sparks. He's all about it, I tell you what. This is the rampless version. And what I've really come to love about this knife is the handle geometry. Now, people have talked a lot about it online, and I've watched probably a million different videos over the last 15 years about the Bravo handle. And I never owned one. I never picked one up. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. This Coke bottle shape is perfect for my hand size. Depending on the glove maker, I am sometimes a medium if I want a tight fit, like a mechanic's glove, something where I have a lot of dexterity with the glove. But normally a large, especially for something more like insulated leather, something of that nature. Anything that I'm going to play around in the campfire with, probably a large size glove. As you can see, the handle offers a little bit of room to move, but not a whole lot. And it's comfortable whether or not you're way up or you come way back. And if you need to chop, do a little bit of delimbing, coming right in here works very well. I'm curious to see how this would do on mule deer or elk. It doesn't have a scallop here. No scallop. But the side hold does feel relatively good. I don't foresee there being any kind of a problem. It's thick enough, and this is recessed back enough that when your finger's here, you can go up on the back of the blade, but you don't really get up this way onto the side of the steel extremely comfortably. Fox River is probably better at that. Back in the day, I used to watch a lot of the Virtua Vice videos, and I never did get the only Bark Rivers I ever had. I didn't get them because they were the design I wanted. They just happened to be priced right, and I couldn't pass them up at the time that I picked them up. It's very common for me. I will snag things and discover whether or not I like it a little farther down the road. After I used it, it was still razor sharp, and this one did come to a complete 0 ground Scandi. It didn't have any little micro bevel, and I went ahead and I stropped it. I call it my therapy stropping. 8,000 grit diamond compound up the height of that convex, and just gave it a decent polish after I had beaten on it a little bit. The cutting geometry is also very nice. The LT has a thinner blade stock than the regular Bravo, and because of that, you don't necessarily need the full height convex. This knife has a flat here and is not a full height convex. Yet the edge geometry down here is very, very thin, especially if you strop it down a bit. It brings it to a very acute and slicey edge. This one is the black canvas micarta, regular pins. This is the one DLT usually has a very good price on. Hard to beat it for what you're getting. This one was very well done. I was surprised. The only minor fit and finish flaw that I found on this is that right prior to the sharpening choil, it's a little proud. And that's super easy to do when you're belt sanding, belt grinding. I've done it myself, even just doing customizations on already factory knives, just doing modifications, things like that. So that is going to cause a little bit of a smile right there in front of it to occur. You can kind of see the proudness. Everything else was absolutely perfect. The grind is perfect. Termination of the flats is perfect. Plunge grind on this, can't really tell in my camera, but it's perfect. The handle is ground perfectly up at the front here. No difference in the bevel there. The rest of the handle seems very, very symmetrical. I don't see anything on here that I would complain about whatsoever. I've always had a thing for this handle shape, so I kind of gravitated towards it just because it's similar in geometry to some other knives that I've had really good luck with. If you look on this Jacare Puukko, you can see that it shares a similar bottleneck. If I can get it. Similar bottleneck, just a little thicker. A little thinner in the center, a little thicker at the ends, a little thicker at the pinch points. But this one I've always found very comfortable. Fits well in the hand. This one I've convexed. Size-wise, this is the 140 millimeter Terava Puukko. And it's got just a little bit of blade length on the 1.25 LT. Stock thickness, almost identical. I'd say identical. It's a little deceiving on the Terava Puukko because they have a dual bevel. There's actually a tiny little bevel that runs on either side there. I don't know if you can, yeah, that is actually a bevel. So when you're looking directly at the spine of the knife, trying to compare it with something else, it's deceiving because the very end is a little thinner than the actual blade stock. I didn't look up manufacturer specs on these or anything, but putting them side to side or comparing the Terava's little rear protrusion to the Bark River, they are too close to call. I wouldn't say it could go one either way. They're super similar. Another knife that has excellent ergonomics that I've had for many, many years, comes in at a much lower price point as well, is the Bushcraft Black. Now the Bushcraft Black is a substantially smaller knife in blade. Much smaller blade. But handles, handle lengths, handle thicknesses, in the center swell, very similar. Handle depth, the Bushcraft Black is actually deeper in its 3D dimension, in its depth, than the Bravo. So is the Terava. In fact, the Terava is thicker than the Bushcraft Black. A lot of that having to do with a full belly contour here, like the Bravo has, belly to belly. Where in the Mora, you have your single finger choil, and then instead of it maintaining a belly, it swoops back down again, keeping a pretty symmetrical width all the way to the end. But this has always been my favorite Mora handle. I absolutely love the ergonomics of the Black. A lot of people prefer the Garberg and some of the others, but the two that I like the most have always been the Outdoor 2000 and the Bushcraft Black. They're just simple, they're tacky, they don't slip around in your hand, they don't rotate in your hand, they don't slide forward, back. It is just, you're locked in. You don't have hot spots because the widths are very nice. The contouring's very nice. No sharp edges. With all three of these that I slapped down on the table, no sharp edges. Everything is very rounded. With the Jacare Puukko, the way they did this handle, it is shaped as if you had stuck a piece of wood on a lathe. Or run it on a sanding belt like they do with the Bark River. As far as the way they cut, once this starts into the material, it's a laser beam. It just absolutely sinks in. I've only used it on wood, green and dry. I think the majority of it was elm, except for southern pine from a 2x4, some furring strips, and some 2x2s that I had that I broke down to burn. The Scandi on this cut well from the factory. I went ahead and I convexed this and discovered that I believe this was originally ground from a stone as opposed to a belt. More of a wet wheel, if you're familiar with like a Tormac. As you can see with the polish that this has, it polishes the top edge, it polishes the main edge. But this is not completely flat. There is a little bit of a hollow grind, similar to what you get running on a wet wheel, water wheel, Tormac, something of that nature. This is the full convex, well, partial convex from the flat, and it goes all the way down and terminates to a zero edge. So when I strop and work on this, I'm covering this entire grind with the leather of my strop, where the strop is only contacting two spots on the Terava. The true Scandi on the Bushcraft, this did come with a tiny little micro bevel for stability. A lot of manufacturers do that, put a little micro bevel. But I ground that off. I went down to a 0 degree. Unless I'm doing something that is very, very hard on this knife, I won't have any edge damage. The carbon steel that Mora uses, it'll handle that zero grind Scandi without a problem. Not an issue. So I figured I'd bust out the old Bark River. This is a newer production. I've had this about 5, maybe 6 months. It was the DLT special in the 3V. I'm hoping to get a hold of the, what do they call it? It's the EXT2 Hunter. I love the, I guess it's a clip point. It is a clip point. I love that clip point that it has. It just looks beautiful. I don't even anticipate getting anything with fancy handle scales or anything like that. I'll just get whatever DLT's got on special and roll with it. It's a little shorter than this. Same thickness, I believe. Same stock thickness. Very similar handle. It follows the contour of the EXT1 though, which instead of being a mostly flat back knife, it is going to round down, which I like because when I have a hold of the knife, if I'm doing any type of work on a flat surface, this works well for it too. But that EXT, the actual grind edge would be down here farther. The blade slopes down a little bit. So when I'm on the table doing cuts, my fingers are higher off of the table, and I don't have to put as much wrist or elbow action into it when I'm cutting on the table, because my edge touches much sooner than it does with a more traditional straight shaped blade like this Bravo 1.25. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will talk later. Bye.